But what would you do if you found out that your apartment's water service could be cut off in a matter of weeks? People who live at the Big Country Chateau apartments in Little Rock are now faced with that very question after being told a shutoff was coming. THV11's Sarah Hobakowicz shares their stories, plus the efforts to get answers from management.
This was really scary for me.
Residents at the Big Country Chateau apartments got this letter last week. In 2 months, their water would be shut off, even though residents pay for it included in their rent.
I saw this. I said, oh my God, no water. What am I going to do? What are we going to do?
And residents say there are other issues on the property right now, like sanitation.
The roaches are so bad here, it's just like they're in the military.
And safety.
Right now, you can still see some of the blood spots that was there from the last murder.
As of Tuesday, residents say management's response has largely been this note on their front office saying that there is no information about the, quote, water.
I haven't heard from them or seen them or nothing. And if you call, they don't answer the phone.
The shutoff notice actually coming directly from the water company, something Central Arkansas Water says is standard practice.
We were able to notify all the residents in full transparency that this is occurring.
So we walked up to the manager's office asking for answers, but we didn't come back with anything concrete.
Management declined to go on camera, but told us that the water shutoff notice was simply a miscommunication and has been resolved, despite their signs still claiming to not have information on the water. However, Central Arkansas Water told us Tuesday that they're actually still working to resolve the issue.
We hope to come to a full resolution before anyone, unfortunately, would have to be without water service.
The office would neither confirm nor deny if payment issues were a cause. They showed us a draft of a letter to be shared with residents Wednesday, with management promising water will stay on, among other property improvements like increased security. While the water may be staying on, residents continue to push for changes at this property, pointing out blood-stained sidewalks and chanting to shut down the complex.
And I'm really ashamed, to be living here, because I just moved here for an emergency purposes,
Reporting in Little Rock, Sarah Hobakowicz, THV11 News.
And while poor living conditions could possibly allow a resident to get out of their lease early, the Center for Arkansas Legal Services tells us that Arkansas renters' rights are limited. And even if they did move out in a situation like that one you just saw, they would not get any money for relocation. The heat is so bad, your AC unit may be struggling to keep up with it. Even if it's cooling you, the bills are still so high. And that may be why so many people are sharing one photo on social media. Well, last night we told you about a Little Rock apartment complex that in just a few weeks could get their water cut off. And we're staying on top of this story tonight. New information from the water company. And THV11 Sarah Hobakowicz joins me now. And where we are with this story now, what is management telling the residents, Sarah?
Well, Craig, so last week, residents at the Big Country Chateau apartments got a letter like this one from Central Arkansas Water. So here's what it says, that come September 1st, their water would actually be shut off. Yesterday, we went to the complex and management told us off camera that the issue had already been solved. But managers sent residents this letter today, promising that there would be no stop in water service, among other facility upgrades like security cameras. But today, I called Central Arkansas Water directly, who said that the problem has actually not been solved, as faucets are still set to be shut off in less than 2 months for what's estimated to be over 100 units at this complex. Now, residents, many of whom say they don't have the funds to move somewhere else, are searching for next steps, and their rights are limited.
In comparison to other states, renters' rights in Arkansas are very weak. I would say that we have the weakest habitability requirements in the country, meaning that we have the weakest protections for health and safety standards for those who rent their homes.
And Little Rock City officials are aware of the situation. In their regularly scheduled board meeting yesterday, directors mentioned possibly investigating the complex. And now, Craig, there isn't a clear timeline right now for resolving this issue, but the water company says it needs to happen before that September 1st deadline.
Well, This is a big issue, but you also mentioned there are other issues with this complex, like...
Yeah, Craig. So residents told us that they had issues with bugs, mold, and faulty air conditioning. But their most shocking concern was safety. So many homicides at this complex that cleaning up blood stains has become a recurring problem for these residents.
Incredible. What can residents do about this?
Yeah, well, their options are limited, like that lawyer just said. But the Center for Arkansas Legal Services also said that residents can reach out to them for free advice. Plus, any resident that's on Section 8 housing can contact their case manager.
All right, Sarah, we know you're on top of this story, and chances are good we'll hear more.
Yeah, definitely going to keep looking into this.
Okay, just like we're looking into the heat with Chief Meteorologist Tom. At 10, the City of Little Rock's investigation into code violations for Big Country Chateau Apartments is now complete, with a new timeline to fix any code violations starting tomorrow. THV11 Sarah Habakowitz explains what the next steps are for the complex.
Among about 100 other families,
He's even got hair on his ears.
7-week-old baby August has lived at Big Country Chateau Apartments in Little Rock his whole life.
You can hear him, the congestion, and he'll be drinking his bottle and then have to choke, because he's got so much stuff going on.
So his mom, Amy Black, took him to the doctor.
That's what his pediatrician told us, was that it was, due to mold indoors.
Residents say they're used to issues with mold and bugs, but when the water and electricity companies told residents they had a few weeks before shutoff, the city stepped in, finishing its investigation today.
Do you think this apartment complex is going to be shut down? Do you think it'll be condemned?
Not based off the information that I received from the fire marshal and the building codes official.
But the city says individual apartment violations will still need to be fixed, referencing an estimated 9 out of 11 buildings with gas lines not up to code.
For life safety items, you have 70 days to get those corrected. Non-life safety items, you have 30 days to get those corrected.
If things aren't fixed on time, management can get fined. But if water and electricity shut off next month,
typically, then we will have to evacuate tenants out of that property.
Little Rock has already prepared $50,000 for temporary hotel relocations if needed, as management says owners are working to pay the power bill and cut a deal with the water company.
We've held up our end of the bargain as tenants. We pay our rent. Our utilities are included in our rent, so I had no idea that this was coming.
But owners have more to worry about than just Big Country. They own at least 3 other properties in Arkansas and at least 2 others across the country, some of them facing similar shutoff concerns, but most under different names.
They have a whole maze of limited liability corporations.
Arkansas Renters United is now trying to connect the dots and tenants in need across the country, hoping for a solution.
We're talking to different organizations across the city to see if they can come in and help.
While many residents here struggle to afford a solution of their own with less than 30 days before possible shutoff.
We just want a safe place to raise our kids. I don't feel like it's too much to ask, but lately it seems like it's an insurmountable task,
Management told me that one of their problems is residents not paying their rent on time. But some residents are telling me they're holding off on paying until they know for sure if they're going to have water and electricity next month. Reporting in Little Rock, Sarah Habakowitz, THV11 News.
The detailed report of the city's investigation into Big Country Chateau will be handed to management tomorrow morning. And while the city is working with more organizations to help residents, some resources are limited, as people can only apply for emergency rehousing with DHS once they are already homeless. The city of Little Rock is preparing a follow-up inspection of the Big Country Chateau Apartments early next week, with the fate of about 130 families hanging in the balance. I'm Craig O'Neill.
And I'm Faith Woodard. These 100+ families in danger of having to evacuate if their water and power gets turned off. THV11 Sarah Habakowitz has the latest updates from management and what resources are available to tenants.
With just 3 weeks until a possible water and electricity shutoff, residents are looking to move out of the Big Country Chateau Apartments in Little Rock.
They thought that paying the rent, the water and electricity would be paid for, but apparently it wasn't.
And Arkansas Renters United is trying to help.
Working with tenants to find answers and solutions.
Right now, Central Arkansas Water says that the complex is still scheduled for shutoff, but they're working actively with owners to try and pay the bill. And if owners do come to a resolution that eliminates that shutoff, they'll notify each resident at the complex to let them know that the situation has been resolved. Apartment management, while declining to go on camera, confirmed that the original water bill was about $200,000. A similar total to the over $250,000 in overdue rent that management showed is still owed to the complex from what they say is just over the last year. The city preparing for that possible shutoff and resident relocation.
They already have plans, and we've already set up plans to move the individuals and families that's over there in that location to hotels.
And a follow-up investigation next week on life safety violations like fire alarms and electrical problems.
You have 7 days to complete those life safety items. If not, we issue a citation at that point.
While hundreds of residents are caught in the middle.
And Sarah joins us now. Let's talk about this for a second. What are the violations the city's checking up on right now?
Right, so there was that long list that we saw last week. A majority of those safety violations, however, were things like fire alarm installations and electrical fixes. Those have to be completed by Monday, and management says they're on track to do just that. But the complex now has 30 days from last week's inspection to solve the non-life safety violations, things like pest infestations.
Now, to add to this, what about criminal activity in the area on top of everything else you've talked about here?
Yeah, so we have done reports of criminal activity there, and residents are concerned, but that's not necessarily a code violation. So management told us that they're having a hard time getting police to come to the apartments after seeing those multiple homicides over the past few months. But I spoke with LRPD, and when I shared these concerns with them today, they said in part that LRPD has been monitoring this location and provided extra patrols. And during high volume times of calls, there are times where calls may hold off until an officer is available.
All right, Sarah, keep after it. I know you will. The story just keeps evolving.
Yeah, definitely continuing to talk to everyone involved in this.
All right. And tonight, new developments in the investigation into a Little Rock apartment complex. And thank you for joining us at 5. I'm Craig O'Neill.
And I'm Faith Woodard. For weeks, THV11 has been following the unfolding investigations at the Big Country Chateau Apartments in Little Rock. And now the state's attorney general is involved.
And THV11 Sarah Hobakowitz brings us today's updates.
Today, I am announcing a lawsuit against Big Country Chateau and its parent company, Apex Equity Group.
After years of tenant complaints and a city investigation, Arkansas Attorney General Leslie Rutledge wants the Big Country Chateau apartment owners to pay for what she says is mismanagement of rent and utility pay.
Big Country Chateau chose instead to pocket the money and to not pay those water and electric bills.
The New York area-based parent company, Apex Equity Group, is also named in the suit, one of many they're involved in across the country, and Rutledge is hoping their time in Arkansas ends soon.
We are able to, in addition to the violation, is to prevent them from doing business in Arkansas.
But local apartment management, praised by most residents, says they're doing what they can to fix code violations the city continued to inspect on Wednesday.
Code enforcement.
Code enforcement said off camera they've seen some life safety offenses, but are working with management, so a fine and a court date might not be necessary right now.
All we need to do is just check that smoke alarm right there in the hallway.
But residents are still frustrated with an unknown future and still an unknown water source starting next month.
So as you can see, that's new mode right there.
Still, Big Country Management reports thousands of dollars in unpaid rent from residents, while their parent company, Apex, boasts millions of dollars in acquisitions. This leaving residents in the middle.
As soon as she come up here, it's like she's coughing up her lungs. Just unlivable. It's really unsafe and unlivable. And all we need is for them to step up and help us out, but they won't.
Code enforcement tells us that their full report on this investigation should be ready by tomorrow. But remember, things like mold and gas lines are complaints that need to be followed up on down the road. For now, reporting in Little Rock, Sarah Hobakowitz, THV11 News.
Neither the city nor the Attorney General's office have actually tested for mold at the complex yet. Big Country is also expected in city court later this month to address ongoing gas line issues from 2019.